No mics.
Always afraid of the front.
All right, now why we have no mic? Why do we have no mic?
I don't feel good. I look better. I look skinny. I lost more than 25. No, but it's really long. Yeah. Good to see you. Thank you. Good to see you. Yeah.
There is water in the foyer for anyone who needs water. We did unfortunately run out of chocolate Easter bunnies, I'm sorry.
Oh, man.
And Walter Klein has honesty about it. Some has tough.
Sure.
Whatever you wish.
We're not getting any video. What is going on? Shit. Okay, I got some bad news. We're not going to be going live. But this is going to be, whoever's in this room, we're not going to have a recording. I apologize. But something's wrong with the stream. And so we're just going to do this live. And whatever happens in this room is going to be in this room. So I apologize.
What happens at Dwight Foster stays at Dwight Foster.
Yeah.
Just feel free to embarrass ourselves.
Right. So for some reason it didn't go out live.
It didn't go live?
Yeah.
Okay. We've got a couple more minutes.
Meanwhile, I'll keep working on it. So Mike, you can turn your microphone on. Go ahead and turn your microphone on.
Can we talk?
Yeah.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Right.
To work?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
And we got 4 minutes. 4 minutes to go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Michael's not going to retire until it's like Moses. He made it to 120. Then he stopped and said, well, what am I going to do next?
Park the rock for
the kid is that all. We're almost there. Ladies and gentlemen, I officially bring this 2026 Fort Atkinson Council Candidate Forum to order. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight. It's really nice to see and gratifying to see such a great turnout. My name is John Donahue. I'm the Executive Director for the Fort Atkinson nonprofit group Citizen Leadership Forum, whose purpose is dedicated to advancing an informed electorate. Can everybody hear okay? Okay. This goal of achieving a more informed electorate is why we're here tonight. And it's our tradition in politics since our nation's founding. The second president of the United States, John Adams, stated, "Liberty cannot be preserved without a general knowledge among the people who have a right and a desire to know." James Madison, our fourth United States president, and whose birthday we observe this week, stated, "Knowledge will forever govern ignorance, and the people who desire to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power knowledge gives." In the spirit of civil society, we must be absolutely honorable to the broad spectrum of public opinion, and we must honor and respect diverse and conflicting interests. Compromise and collaboration are therefore key elements in the operation of our local government. Collaboration is our focus in this forum. We will try to minimize any partisan arguments. This is a nonpartisan forum, just as the office of City Council in Fort Atkinson is nonpartisan. So think of our gathering here tonight as strictly advancing the best possible government we can have for our city and our citizens. Potholes, leaf removal, garbage pickup, the status of the local economy, all of these issues and more. Whatever it takes to run the city effectively require the best of ideas and effective implementation regardless of their source. So tonight we meet our Fort Atkinson City Council candidates for 2026 to help us see more clearly our local problems, our opportunities, and their solutions. We're not looking for agreements necessarily, but we do seek a greater understanding of the issues we face as a community and how local government can address those issues. City council structure and election cycles are governed by our city ordinances. State that the council will consist of 5 members elected at large who shall serve for terms of 2 years. Of the 5 members of the council, 2 shall be elected in each of the even numbered years and 3 in each of the odd numbered years. This being an even numbered year, council members Bruce Johnson and Eric Schultz currently hold the 2 seats up for spring election. Only council member Johnson is seeking re-election, however. Council member Schultz earlier filed a notification of non-candidacy. The other 3 seats not up for election this year are held by incumbents Peggy Huckabee, Kyle Jekyll, and David Lesko here. These 3 seats are unaffected by this April's election, but will be up for election on April 6, 2027. Candidate placement for this spring's ballot was determined in January for the 4 candidates running for the 2 seats and who met qualifications. And they're, of course, with us tonight. The order of candidate placement on the April 7th ballot will be, and if you could wave or stand or salute, whatever you wish, John Chigarelli, Nathan Friedel, Jenna Price, and Bruce Johnson. On staff tonight are Michael Clish, our moderator, a former news director for WFAW and WSJY Radio. I also thank Mark Bardenwerper, who is taking care of our technical side, and Mr. John House, who supported this candidate forum and the Citizen Leadership Forum in a very significant way. Thank you also to Tracy Jordan at Opportunities Incorporated, who provides graphic support, and my special thanks to Holly Lindeman in De Pere, who maintains the Fort Atkinson Independent Reporter website and provides us with additional graphic support with rating. And of course, we extend our gratitude to the Dwight Foster Public Library for providing this great facility. At the welcome table as you came in, there are 2 different kinds of cards there. There's a question card, which you can use if you prefer not to take the microphone or come to the podium. with your question, which we will have in the second half of this forum. You will be able to ask your own questions. And we also have ideas hours. So if you have like a major idea that you think would be really excellent for the city of Fort Atkinson, you can fill out that card and we'll send it up to the chain of command. This is a 2-hour event. The first hour, roughly, will run like this. Each candidate will give a 3-minute opening statement. At the conclusion of all opening statements, Mr. Clish will then direct follow-on questions to the candidates in turn as appropriate. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to respond to such questions. Following each candidate's response, Mr. Clish, the questions he asks, any other candidate may then follow up with a 1-minute rebuttal or challenge response. So it's 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. The second hour of the forum is open to all of you to ask your questions. You as members of the audience will have an opportunity to ask questions and voice your concerns. This is actually your forum. So, hey, thanks for being here. And it's gratifying, like I said, to see such a great turnout. Very good. Forum ends promptly at 8. We will take no breaks. Restroom facilities are just down the hall. And as I mentioned, we have waters outside in the entryway. And that's about all I have to say about that. Michael, it's all yours.
Thank you, John. We'll start with opening statements. Begin with Mr. John Ciccarelli.
Up and to the right. Up and to the right. Don't say
Something.
There you go.
It's great to see such a great turnout tonight. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your evening.
Keep the mic up by your mouth.
I want to thank you all for taking time out of your evening to come out and hear what you have to say and let us listen to your concerns as well. I grew up in the East, and my wife grew up right here in the Midwest in Fort Atkinson. Our careers took us west to the San Francisco Bay Area. Each of us spent 42 years out there on separate tracks until about 15 years ago. And when it came time to retire, we looked up and down the West Coast and we said, no place that's a lot more like home. And Fort is very much like a couple of places I grew up. So we looked at each other and said, your family's here, we got friends here. Let's make a life in Wisconsin. And we did. We moved here in late 2023. We chose a house just a few blocks from Main Street in the Rock River, which I love. And what I found is there's a whole lot of friendly, generous, involved people around here. And that's one of the things we were looking for. And we needed to plug in. Initially, at first, I actually came to the library early on and found that there was this thing called teaching English as a volunteer. So I hooked up with the Literacy Council.
John, the mic a little closer to your mouth, please.
I volunteered with Habitat for Humanity and did a couple of work shifts to help put together the duplex, the townhouse they got out on the east side by the hospital. And then my background actually is in transportation and planning, land use, safety, that sort of thing. I got to see a lot of cities, towns, and villages and tribal areas up and down California, help them with problems related to keeping their city a safer and healthier place. So I volunteered and was appointed to the Planning Commission, where I've served for about a year now. And that's been a good way to get introduced to how the city runs. So it's one of the reasons I wanted to do more and become a member of the city council and be more involved with keeping the city going well and growing well. In my 2 decades of work in transportation, I sat on many committees all the way from city to national level and spent countless hours coming to agreements around the table. This, I think, prepared me really well for the Planning Commission and I think also for city council. So one of the strengths I bring is experience working together and building a diverse groups, opinions, and thoughts into a workable whole going forward. I look forward to serving Port Atkinson in a broader role, actively listening to everyone's concerns and ideas, representing you in front of City Council, and working so that elected officials work together with City administration to make this place an even better place.
Thank you, John. Mr. John Ciccarelli. Next up, Mr. Nathan Friedel.
I too want to echo John's sentiments about you guys making it out tonight, taking time out of your evening and being involved in the city government and in your future. Bear with me, I'm a little bit under the weather, recovering, so if I clear my throat, that's why. My wife and I, we've been married. We're married with 3 grown children. Our daughter and family, we live and work overseas. We have 2 grandchildren, and I'm told we have 2 granddogs, but I'm still not 100% certain that's a thing. We've lived in Port Atkinson for 25 years, and our kids have grown up here and gone to school here. We've established roots in the city. We have a church family and really enjoy the community and the relationships we made here. I've been, so a little bit about my background. I've been in business management for going on 30 years now and working for a privately held company in Wisconsin. During that time, I've worked heavily in areas of employee development and growth and expansion and capital projects throughout the company. I've had a hand in driving the growth of the organization from $12 million a number of years ago to $70+ million today, and we're continuing to grow and expand. One question on the candidates forum instructions is, why do you think you're the best candidate for a council position? I don't really think of it in those terms about being the best candidate. I think I'm just at a point in life, based on past success and experiences, to offer experience and perspective that could strengthen what is currently a good team of people on the council. Now, one of the other questions is, what is the role of a council member in a thriving community? And I think first and foremost, it's to listen. It's to listen to the citizens you represent, but also your colleagues on the council and city staff. It is also to be able to see issues and opportunities in such a ways to provide meaningful and substantive ideas for solving problems and making decisions, along with what is being a good steward of the community and its limited resources. When I take on something new, I rarely approach it as a question about what to right away. I don't really approach things that way with new things. When I take on something, I rarely approach it like that. I like to first build relationships, to ask questions on what others think, what is working, or what might need attention. I think change, if needed, would come at a later time. In a budgeting and financial management, I like a phrase that John used in the brochure, the letter. He said, first best use. And I think that's a really good way to approach things and to prioritize things. The city has limited funds, many responsibilities, and I really, that phrase caught me, and I think that's a very good way to capture that idea. What would I do to plan to support city staff and employees? Over the years, I've developed a leadership style that's collaborative, inclusive, put people together in teams, bring them together, ideas, seek out expert opinion from the people that work in the areas that they have that expertise in. A very collaborative process, a very agreeable process, coming to the, sometimes you have to make compromises for certain, not everybody sees it the same way. But I think finding common ground is a very important thing, and getting input so you're making the best decisions. So that'd be my approach.
Thank you, Nathan. Mr. Nathan Friedel. Next up, Ms. Jenna Price.
Thank you so much. As somebody who does own one of those grand dogs who is very spoiled, I can assure you that is definitely something that is a thing for us. Hi, thank you all. Good evening. I'm glad you are all here, and I really appreciate your time. A little bit about me and about why I'm running. One of the things that I think about very often is the Mr. Rogers quote. look for the helpers. There are the people that are out there. You will always find the people who are helping. I want to take that and I want to flip that a little bit. I want to talk about that in terms of service. I come from a long line of family who have served. I have a family history of police officers, firefighters, and public school teachers. In the past, I've always been a quiet contributor. I work for UW Health, so I'm healthcare, but not quite in one of those other very public-facing fields. So in this, I am called to come up and help serve my community. I am running because I care deeply about the future of Fort Atkinson and how we grow in a way that works for everybody. In my professional work, I've led long-term initiatives, built standards that last, and worked closely with leaders and technical teams to turn complex challenges into practical solutions. I also believe strongly in being intentional in decision making. I am a person who takes the time to do the research. I had a first job as a children's librarian, so I will always fall back to my roots of doing my research. I gather the full picture and I understand the facts before I move forward. So the choices we make are going to be thoughtful, informed, and set up for a long-term success. I'm somebody who also brings people together. I listen to very different perspectives, and I help align our priorities across all of those perspectives. I make sure decisions don't just sound good, but actually work in practice. I'm also focused on how systems impact our daily lives. Whether that's access to services, clear communication, or making processes easier for both our residents and our businesses. Fort Atkinson is at an important point with growth, infrastructure, and community investment. My goal is simple: listen, build thoughtful plans, and follow through with solutions that make a real difference for our community. I would be very honored to serve, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. Ms. Jenna Rice. Next candidate, Bruce Johnson.
Good evening, folks. I'm glad to see this many people here. One of the very few things, I'm a sitting councilman. I've been on council for 8 years. And the only real disappointment that I see from council is we don't have enough public support showing up with their questions at council. So it's really a pleasure to see this many people who care. I'm a Fort Atkinson native. I was born in the Fort Hospital. I went through the Fort school system. I ran a local business, a body shop, Lucky the Auto Body. I may have fixed some of your cars in the past for 45 years. I've been a councilman for the last 8 years. I think I've got a comprehensive understanding of how city government operates, and I want to continue to utilize that and make progress on some things. It's a little tough the way things work, but we'll get there. My priorities are, I want to try and start managing the cost of living. I've been a councilman, like I said, for 8 years. The one thing I haven't seen is anything that reduced taxes. So everything, oh, it's just 1%, it's just 2%, it's not a big deal. It's becoming a big deal in my mind. We need to stop some of that, stop increasing the cost of living here. I'm very pro-business. I think we need businesses and very pro-businesses downtown. And many of my decisions would be based on pro-business thoughts. I also want to preserve our community's small town ambiance. Certain things I like about small towns is what I like. No offense to those who like it, but I wouldn't live in Madison for any amount of money. You don't want the driving 2 miles, taking a half an hour or 45 minutes because traffic's that tight. I like Fort. I like where Fort's going. I believe that the councilman is a nonpartisan position. I take great pride in serving members of our community fairly, all members fairly. And I thank you for your consideration and your support. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Mr. Bruce Johnson. Questions? And we will,
Do any of you have?
Microphone.
Do you want this one on and
Do
off?
any of?
It's gotta be on.
Sorry. Do any of you have any
put up
follow-on
your
questions?
motions.
Hello?
Switches up. Go ahead.
Hello? There you go. Do any of you have any follow-on questions or rebuttals for each other? At all?
No.
Okay. Michael, do you have any other follow-on questions that you might?
Anyone who has a question, raise your hand and we'll bring, John will bring a microphone to you. Here's one right here.
Well, I'm just wondering, if you will support the prohibition of, non-disclosure agreements, and if not, why not?
Who'd like to begin?
Ma'am, can you give an example of, a case example of the non-disclosure agreement?
Okay, well, we have now 47 data centers in, Wisconsin. And, in the Beaver Dam, they've had 4 so far in Wisconsin that are non-disclosure. So they've made deals with the large corporations without telling the public what these deals were until they solved them and ended them. So, and I think that that's a very dangerous precedent, and I'm wondering if you guys are interested in that, or if you disagree with my view.
Want to start?
I'll start with this one. I would be on board with you. I think the people here count. I'm more interested in what the people here want than what the city wants. That's gotten me in a little trouble at times, but I care very much about what people want because they're elected me and I'm supposed to represent them. And I don't think I represent them in secret deals at any level ever.
Thank you, Bruce. John?
That's a wonderful question and a topic that is very near and dear to me as somebody who does live on the river. It is something that I find to be very important. Would I support a non-disclosure? Absolutely not. If I am elected, I am a public servant, first and foremost. I am here to serve everybody, and I am here to make sure that everybody gets to have a voice and gets to be included. I want to also just make sure that we are bringing in business still to the city here, but doing it in a way that is going to be business that gives back to our community. Places like data centers don't give back to our community. They just kind of take from us. There's no jobs that are going to be created outside of the short-term jobs. I'm more interested in our long-term growth and creating real, sustainable, long-term jobs. So, yes, long story short, absolutely not something that I would support.
Thank you, Jenna. Jenna Price. Nathan Friedel.
I find myself in agreement. I absolutely do not support non-disclosure at all. I think business is important, but you have to be transparent. You have to have public hearings. You have to have people be able to have a voice in what is going to affect their lives and their community. So I absolutely don't support that.
Thank you, Nathan. John Ciccarelli.
Speak.
In my first career in software, non-disclosure agreements were common when they were between employees and a company that had trade secrets. In the public realm, absolutely not. Okay. One of the functions of the council is to listen to our constituents, that would be all of you and everyone that lives here, to distill and relay your concerns and your ideas to the administrators, city manager, and everyone on down from there, and to free you from the need to bird dog every single thing, every single day that comes to pass in the city. So we are your relays, your filters, and it's also our duty to go in the opposite direction. and explain to you what's before council when you haven't got 42 hours to do your homework and understand a very complicated issue. They've simplified the explanation. And I think that's one of my strengths is as an explainer. I hope to continue to put that in play before council. So bottom line is no, I think the public deserves to know why things are being chosen, decided, and that there shouldn't be any hidden side. You know, it's common for a city to extend a favor to a business, often in terms of a tax advantage for a couple of years, to get things started. That should be on the table. That shouldn't be something discovered with reviews. Oh, that's why you did that. No.
Thank you, John. John Ciccarelli. Any rebuttal, any of this? If not, we'll go to the next question.
Next question, please. Yes.
Turn the mic back on.
That you all of a sudden realize, I don't think anyone knows about this. I went, just to give you an example, I went Tuesday just to ask when is this council meeting? And the young man at the municipal building said, oh, let me look at the minutes, just to be sure, and he handed me the minutes. I was stunned at a project that was coming up that night on Tuesday at the council. I didn't know they were gonna maybe get rid of part of the parking lot. Does anyone know about this? And put up apartments right next to the downtown. Right, it's right next to the city parking lot. It's right by, Patty's, behind Patty's, we all know where it is, post office. And it just so happened, I was at a meeting with the, city manager, and I said to her 2 weeks ago, I heard rumbling this study. No, I know nothing about it. I said, okay, I just heard gossip. And she said, no, my face. What's going on?
There's
I
a,
mean, if you ever hear something like that, you would tell the public, right? You wouldn't rule on it.
I think there's a constellation of questions
I mean, we just
around
want to
what
know you're gonna be.
this young lady has asked. There was recently a retail study that was concluded by the city, cost $12,500. And I'm not sure what the next steps are with respect to that study. It has to do with downtown business developments and general economic development within the community. So parking is, of course, a part of that equation as we develop economically, particularly downtown. Parking is kind of a question. So perhaps the candidates can address the question of economic development.
It's difficult. May I have the mic?
Okay, is your mic on? Okay, and that mic should be off when you're not using it.
Oh, I wanted to actually hand it back to Michael to moderate this.
Who's gonna start, Bruce?
Very good.
Hi, Carol.
Hi.
I know exactly what parking lot you're talking about. It's right down by, Premier Bank, across the street from the Premier Bank is where they used to do precision alignment use, for those who've been here a long time, if you remember them. They had a building in there. And unfortunately, that stuff is all just short of being condemned. It's really coming apart, hasn't had a business in it for years. And the city's rule has always been that it's so close to the downtown, you have to build something that looks like it belongs in the 1920s to fit in. This lot's been empty for so long, and we're short of parking downtown, and the aesthetic value that they're gonna add, I've seen drawings of it. It's a beautiful addition to being pretty downtown, and nothing would stop us from putting something on it at some time, but it's been empty for a long, long time. And doing something with it that looks far better than how it looks at the moment, I'm on board with that. I voted for that.
I'm not saying I'm not on board. I'm saying it's an
Ma'am,
apartment. building.
Please let
No.
them answer the question.
I don't know, I'm not.
Please let them answer the
It's
question.
not gonna be an apartment building at that location. It's gonna be a parking lot. And it's gonna have a lot of green value and trees and stuff. It's gonna look really nice, but it is not an apartment building going there. There are other apartments going up in town, but not there.
Bruce, what is the minute?
Okay, that's kind of a city council question. So,
We have another question here.
I'd like to know what each of the candidates hope to do to bring, to help fill our business park in the community that's been vacant for almost 20 years since it was originally created on the south side of the town. Other businesses have gone to Jefferson, Palmyra, Whitewater, Lake Mills. Throughout the county, other people have brought in manufacturers and other businesses into the community. I understand that they turned down an $8 million building, which is now in the town of Coshawin, thank you. And but I'd like to know what would be done to bring more businesses. We don't have commercial, we don't have business, downtown businesses, because they shop where they work. And people are going from Port Atkinson to Madison, and Lake Mills, Whitewater, and Jefferson, and other places to work. They're willing to sleep here, but they don't do business here because they don't live here. They do business where they put. They go out to lunch. I think on their way home to work. So what's the plan to fill that business plan?
I'll start handing it down. I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, if I've gone to Johnson's Creek or Jefferson, there's building going on everywhere. Not in the city of Fort, and they're all filling up their business parks. I have addressed that a little bit with our city manager and got nowhere. And what I got was, I wanted to know what they're doing different than us. She didn't want any part of that. She's sure that the path she has us on is where it is correct. And I don't know, Fort has a really tall building code. You can't put stuff up in Fort ever without meeting this tall building code. And in our business park, they got stuff packed on top of that, so they make it expensive to go there, to a point where places won't go. And I've watched a couple places attempt to go there that left for that reason. So I would like to address that, but that would take a working relationship with the city management that hopefully we can achieve, because I would be on board with that.
Thank you, Bruce. We'd like to get these questions for all of the candidates.
All the candidates, what their plan is.
And when you talk into the mic, bring it close to your mouth. And talk into the mic.
So one thing that I would be able to bring is a fresh look at how easy, or in this case, maybe how difficult, and it is to actually navigate starting or growing a business here. Sometimes the barriers aren't obvious until you go through that process yourself. So I focus on listening to our current local business owners, gathering that feedback, and then making thoughtful improvements so we're not intentionally or unintentionally slowing people down. My understanding is that we are now going to be able to start offering businesses new agreements with the closure of that tax district. And we'll be able to open up some new agreements with these businesses that can be coming in. I think that's where our city council will really have an ability to make an impact to really bring in that good growth that we are seeing in our neighbor towns. Do not want that to be going to other towns. At least I don't. I really do love living in Fort, and I would love to be able to have more amenities living in Fort, so I don't have to go elsewhere to do some certain kinds of shopping or something like that. So it is something that we'll be able to bring in, but also make sure that it's going to be able to be good for the city and good for our growth. We can't outpace our housing that is available here. So we want to make sure that we're doing it all in a very mindful way that is going to help continuing our city growth in the long term.
Thank you, Jenna. Ms. Jenna Price.
Yeah, I share your sentiments. I actually work in Jefferson, And I have seen exponential growth in business. And I can tell you that retail it's nice to have options, but to really drive the city's revenue and its viability into the future is to have manufacturing, a good, solid manufacturing base. It's going to create competitive, high-paying jobs, which in turn is going to add to the tax base or the revenue stream for the city as well. So that's very important. But a couple of very significant hurdles that businesses have to cross when they start up. There are many things to doing that, especially in manufacturing, is regulation, or in the case of Fort Atkinson, it might be ordinances. One of the things that I know in personally working with Jefferson on an expansion project there, the city manager in Jefferson went to no end to help us through all the hurdles that we had come across, whether it was from state, local, DNR, whatever it might be. They were incredibly accommodating, incredibly helpful. If there were things in the city ordinances that got in the way of that expansion, and this was a kind of business too that was going to have low impact environmentally, but it was going to create jobs, they were very aggressive in helping us through that. So I think that's part of the success of that story. But it goes beyond that as well as infrastructure. Businesses need infrastructure. They need roads and access. They need water. They need other things when you're talking about manufacturing. And to be able to, in order to drive those jobs and the revenue for the city, those are the areas that really need to be focused on. I do agree that you don't want just any and every business coming in here, and it needs to be a very transparent process. So you have to look at those businesses. Are they a good fit for our community? So it's not taking everything and anyone and anything in business, but I think it's very important to aggressively pursue that. And the first things you do is you create an environment that's conducive to business, that attracts business. And then the second thing you do is you form committees or groups or teams that go out and advocate for your location, your area. You can look and search for the people that might be looking to expand an operation or build a new facility, and then you aggressively go and approach them, make a phone call, talk to them about the benefits of coming to our location. So it's a couple of things that you have to do, but you have to do it on purpose, and you have to do it intentionally, and you have to be very, very persistent.
Thank you, Nathan. Nathan Bridle. John Ciccarelli.
I agree that one of the roles of a city council person should be to examine, re-examine regulations to make sure they make sense, and that they're not barriers. A very small step in that direction was recently done came before the planning commission on city. That the review of ordinary business signs is now going to be done in a much more streamlined administrative fashion. That's a tiny step in the right direction. Why bring just the planning commission something that doesn't really need debate? Instead, city staff, building and zoning official will summarize the simple signs that have come administratively through. Planning commission will still approve their historical signs, more intricate signs in downtown. That's a tiny step in the right direction. With regard to the business part, it has been 20-odd years of not much going on. Mark?
Keep going.
Okay. The city uses a tool that Jenna referenced called a tax instrument district. It's a tool that a city can do to put money into a place and in hopes of it landing business, basically. And if it lands business, then the property taxes from that business and all the other benefits will accrue to the city for the life of this TID agreement. There was one in place for years and years in the business park, in Clement Business Park, and pretty much didn't produce that much. Its calendar years have come to an end. The city's going to have a new agreement in place. There is actually some substantial good news about Clement Business Park. There is a developer that wants to put in two what are called flex industrial buildings right at the entrance on Commerce Drive. As you're facing in, it'll be on the right side. These are big buildings, and they aren't industry by themselves, but they're places where small and medium-sized industry can locate. There's a lot of truck doors in the back. They can be subdivided. It's just a place to start a business and grow a business. So we can attract businesses in them. These are large buildings. Clement Park is 76 acres. The two lots that are going to be equipped with these buildings are about a seventh of the park. So it's a good chunk of activation of the park. The other area for economic development that has land area is northeast of town, sort of east of North Main, north of the hospital, that whole area. And that has another TID district defined. It hasn't really kicked off because Lorman used to locate there and the site's contaminated. But come 2028, the DNR restriction on development for all sorts of technical reasons lapses. And the city has plans for several years of development and planning for that area. That's a lot of area, a lot of places for business to locate. That's good news. I know that city staff is actively involved in promoting the city, including Cronin Business Park. And we've got a partner at the county too called Thrive ED. ED stands for Economic Development and Attractive Business. So it's not just the city going it alone. We have county partners and beyond that we are doing what we can to bring business in. So I'm going to be very involved in doing all we can to build Cronin Business Park and to look further ahead into the northeast redevelopment area.
Thank you, John. John Chicarelli. Model.
Most of what I hear is reasonably accurate, but when I look at stuff around us, I look at Jefferson, Lake Mills, Johnson's Creek, they're going gonzo on filling up their business parks. Clement Business Park, it's been a real popular question to council people while I've been serving about why are we not getting it filled up? Well, it's been in the tax increment district 25 years. That hasn't worked for us. I've only suggested that we should look at what the other cities are doing and compare them. I'm not saying we got to do what they're doing. I'm saying we should compare, find out what they're doing that we're not, because they're filling up, we're not filling up. In fact, we've lost a couple of them with the rules that we have for building them. And I say a TID district, great tax incentive, only if you get people to utilize it.
Question from the audience?
Well, I just had a comment.
Yeah, I echo what Bruce is saying, and that is, the way that business is gonna come is the model that Jefferson and some of the other communities have used, and that is to create the environment that attracts business and then go out and get the businesses here. They have landed some very, very big players like Kikkoman, the expansion, there's a $500 million expansion going on at the ethanol plant. They've landed Palermo's and other really good fit manufacturing businesses, food service industry, not so much service, but the food industry, what's behind food service. And they've done that through their commitment to providing businesses what they need, and that is very, very quick approvals, very easy access to power and water, and just a very, very quick process for businesses to be able to come here. If you don't do that, they're not going to come just because you build the field. They're going to come because you go out and actually create the environment to do it and then aggressively go and get it.
Thank you, Nathan. Anyone?
I do just want to speak to a couple pieces here as well. I think an important piece to highlight here is John's point earlier about working with the county board and other state level places and agencies to be able to bring that in. We can do a lot. We are a mighty little city. We have a lot behind us in our residents, but making sure that we partner with our county board members and our county board has really helped our other locations. Jefferson brought in Kinkelman because of their partnership that they worked with the county board. There was some agreements that were able to be made through that. And I think that is going to be an important piece, that we are not going at this alone, but looking for our allies in the county and states to be able to continue to help us bring in other businesses as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. Jenna Price.
Am I allowed to follow up with anything?
Go ahead.
Yeah, just so people are aware of, Kiekelman's in Jefferson, monstrous place. Fort couldn't have done that ever. They needed 100 acres. We don't have such a piece of property. And if, without filling up Clement Business Park, I don't think the citizens will be pleased with us buying another one. And as far as JDEC, that's the Economic Development with the county. When I first came on council, they were terrible, absolutely terrible. We should have walked away from paying them money. Right now, they're pretty good. And our city manager's got a great relationship with us. She does a great job, and I think they'll be an advantage to us in the future. They just weren't in the past.
Thank you, Bruce. Anyone else?
We have a question from the show.
Microphone.
Thank you. If a group of people assembles on the Main Street Bridge to speak their minds, to express their views, whether it's on immigration, customs enforcement tactics, or the Iran war, or something else, would you support their doing that on the Main Street Bridge?
That's part of the question.
Favor moving them to McCoy Park? And whatever the answer is, what would your reasons be, either for supporting them to continue to express their voices on the Main Street Bridge or requiring them to move to McCoy Park?
Who wants first? Let's hear from John.
I think this goes right back to the right of free assembly. When I came to California, I was surprised to see the way that people demonstrated. And one was to put a demonstration on a highway bridge, to hang flags or banners, regardless of which way they were advocating on the issue. And is that allowed? And yeah, it should be allowed. I think that the right to express opinions, even strong opinions, on any topic is fundamental to the speech that we have a unique right to speak here in the United States. And to express that, I think that's a slippery slope. So I think it's a legitimate function of the city to ask that people not be in the street, not endanger the public, not create a traffic hazard. But as long as people are on the sidewalk and letting people pass by on the sidewalks of Main Street and not getting in the way of traffic and not causing a public disturbance, a peaceful, orderly demonstration, even if it's a fairly big one, I think I'm fine with that on Main Street Bridge or any park in town at the choice of the organizers.
Thank you, John. John Ciccarelli.
I agree with the right for peaceful assembly. I think people should have the right to be able to protest. I mean, it is fundamental to our founding. The only thing that I would say in agreement with what John said is that you have the right to protest and be heard on whatever subject it is. What you don't have a right to do is block or take someone else's right while doing that. So if they assemble on the bridge and people walking back and forth can pass through without issue, that should not be an issue.
Thank you, Nathan. Nathan Friedel.
I have to agree. I think it is very important that we are all able to speak our voices and be heard, especially in a very public forum and in a very public way. That's one of the best ways to be able to listen and to create change is to be able to see your neighbor out there speaking their mind and giving their voice to something that they believe in. My caveat, same as John, is that as long as it's at the safety of the people that are protesting, so just as long as there is no safety concerns and we are able to do so in a safe manner, absolutely continue to protest at whichever place is going to be the most impactful for your voice.
Thank you, John. Price. Bruce.
I guess I'm going to make it unanimous. I think they should be allowed to, but that has to do with my patriotic belief in the Constitution and your right to free speech. you're gonna have that, you're also gonna be able to stand next to somebody, if you wanna have a flag, cool. If you wanna stand next to somebody who's burning the flag and went at the top of his lungs to express everything you don't like, that's his right. He should be able to do it. As long as they do it safely, without threatening the public, they should be allowed to do that.
Thank you, Bruce. Go ahead,
So then how,
to the mic.
Hang on, for the mic.
We're still on this topic, guys.
So then help me understand how you deal with, an officer or officers in our police department who don't agree with you and who tell one of us or all of us who are putting this presentation or rally together that we are illegal and that we should really move from our premises and go to McCoy Park, and that we're not allowed to have a small speaker that is very low in volume, and that also say that it is, that you need a permit, which is not the case, and that even if you seek a permit, it's going to be denied. That's what one of our people were told, and this has been a great concern for all of us, and we're working very closely and diligently with the department because we have an excellent chief of police who is accommodating and helping us. But it's difficult to work with those other individuals that present that.
You have a question?
So I said, how do you work with this? What do we do? And do we go to the city council, or we're trying to work with the police department and doing our best, but it's very difficult.
I'm going to take that. Bruce?
The best answer I could give you is that you go see the city manager. She's an excellent woman, does an excellent job on many things, and I'm sure she would do an excellent job on this. If she does not, then you start pestering your council people, and then we'll get involved. But council doesn't just make stuff up and do it on their own. Usually what come up through the grapevine. So, but it'll start if you go see the city manager, and if you don't get an answer that's satisfactory, contact us. Contact me. You know, I'm glad to stick my nose into it for you.
Bruce Johnson, thank you, Bruce.
For the most part, I agree with what he said, other than to start at the city manager. For the most part, I agree with what he said, other than to start at the city manager. I want to know of issues as they are happening. So if it is something that is happening, I would want it to be brought to me, and then we can go to the city manager. I want to have it on my plate as I'm hearing, so I can make sure that it is resolved. And it's not something that you have to wait for a dissatisfactory resolution at first. So I apologize that this is something that you've been having to deal with. It's not something that should be what you guys have to deal with for, as we all said and agreed, this is your very constitutional right to be able to do this. So I agree that it's something that we should be raising. I want it on my plate, so I know what's being brought to the city manager as well.
Thank you, Jenna. Jenna Price. May I ask a question to better answer the question? Did the officer cite a specific ordinance?
No.
Okay,
And
so
we researched the ordinances and realized that it was in our favor.
okay, so I do not believe police officers should make up stuff to enforce. And if that's the case, then you would come to us. The city manager actually would be a good choice too, and us, because that would be a matter for the police chief to deal with. Because if there's no ordinance that he's citing, then that shouldn't happen. So that the police chief would have to deal with the officer directly.
We did get an attorney.
Okay, but you're not violating any ordinance?
No, just to help us speak to,
then you should be able to be there.
to speak to the police department to talk about why they are approaching it this way when we have our rights.
Well, if that would happen, I'd be happy to speak to him myself. Thank you, Nathan.
It's possible for someone in city government, city administration to have a fundamental misunderstanding of things. What this sounds to me like is the difference between a demonstration and a parade permit. I'm going to get a little technical here. It's absolutely the city's right to require that a parade, a demonstration in the street, be subject to conditions and restrictions and hours and safety precautions. But distinction needs to be made between the two. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not certainly a police officer. And I'm also not someone who sets policy for the city at this point. But that seems like a distinction that ought to be understood. Who's in charge? Where does the buck stop? The buck stops with the city manager. The city manager is top of the org chart. She's the analog of the governor at the state level, and below her is all the department heads, including the police department. So it's officer, or lieutenant, or captain, chief, city manager in the org chart. Of course, the city gives a lot of power and authority to the police department to tell them how to do their jobs usually. Okay. I agree with everybody else at the table here about that the council members, and we serve at large. That means any one of the 5 people serving are a conduit for a concern like this. And it's good to keep us apprised so we're not in turn blindsided by something that's bubbling up through city executive. So I think we're on to the elements of the solution here. I agree with everyone that everything's said.
Thank you, John. John Ciccarelli. Bruce wants one more.
I would like to point out to John that the city manager is not the top of the pinnacle. City council is. She serves underneath us at our pleasure. And I only suggest that you go to the city manager because she is an answer to many things. She can do just about anything. If you don't like the answer you get, then you should seek us out, is how I meant to say it before. We'll be glad to help you. The council of this city is a wonderful group of people.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Johnson. John?
Well, and I can tell you too, is that if I were a city council member, regardless if I agreed with what was being protested or not, because I have no idea what it is, it would be completely immaterial. Right is right.
Thank you, Nathan. Question?
Okay. First of all, I want to thank all 4 of you for stepping up to run. What I'm hearing is 4 human beings that are being honest and trying to do the best they can for the community, and I think that's great. So I'd give them a hand. So my question is that probably 15 to 20% of Port Atkinson is Hispanic, and a good chunk of those may be undocumented. We have a situation where people are afraid to come to the food pantry, families that need assistance with food, and we're trying to work that out, but there's some real fear there that I think most of us can't really begin to understand. So my question is, if you're elected, you do represent the entire community. And what I'd like is just a general short statement about your philosophy about this, and then maybe 1 or 2 specific things that you would do to try to reassure people that they are a part of our community and valued.
Who would like to? John, go ahead.
I can go ahead and start. I am a person who thinks that we are all just human beings trying to go through this crazy world. For better or for worse, we have a lot on our plates. And I think it's something that we shouldn't be preventing anybody from the very basic necessities of life. It is in our DNA as Americans to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. Life being that first and foremost. So making sure that all of our residents have access to the food pantry is just something that is ingrained in me. So it's definitely something that I would be supportive in any way that I can to be able to make sure that everybody has access to the very basic necessities. Our food pantry is a wonderful organization, and we are funded through volunteers and people that are able to donate. That doesn't stop because you are a person that I don't like. There's nothing that should be stopped because I don't agree with somebody or I don't have the same views or speak the same language as them. We should all be able to have access to those necessities.
Thank you, Jen.
I guess I get to talk a lot tonight, which is okay with me. I'm a big mouth, so. To that issue, I don't think they should be stopped. I think that we should help them, period. On the other issue though, city council doesn't really write federal immigration law. That's not gonna happen, so we're looking for a disappointing battle if that's the battle we pick. But I wish this would all turn into history and we'd all be better off with people going back and people doing what they need to do to get by and making sure that every human being is treated fairly.
Bruce Johnson, would someone else like to remark it?
I agree. If there's a person in need, I think the tradition in our country is that you help a person in need. That's just kind of our DNA and who we are. I agree with Bruce as well. I don't think city council and ordinances and that type of thing, immigration and immigration law is a matter of the Constitution and federal government, federal laws and law enforcement. That's not something that would be necessarily even for our police department or city council. We'd be irrelevant in that argument. So,
Thank you, Hayden.
This is one where I have to wonder, should I say anything because of the political climate. At the topmost level, I believe a nation has the right to secure its border. A nation has the right to determine how many people coming to its shores or across its borders it can accommodate and integrate into communities and set them on a path to positive contribution to the community and citizenship if they want it. I think people come to the United States for all sorts of reasons. In generations past, including my own past generations, it was because things just weren't working out. There were famines, there were wars, there was administrations that persecuted them came, and they became Americans. In fact, they were Americans in attitude when they were shore. They were ready to contribute. Okay, they spent decades, in some cases, getting recognized because of the color of their skin, because of the way they spoke, or because of their religion as full Americans. That whole thing is still ongoing. We all know. It pains me that people that worked in this United States for decades have to hide in their houses because of the decision at the topmost levels. And what would I like to see ideally? I'd like to see a path to citizenship for anyone that wants to work hard, that is not a criminal, okay, that sincerely wants to contribute to the community. We are where we must. I think we need to, at the most basic level, help people get the food, the clothing, and the shelter that they need. I do think that this is a dialogue that we need to have with our county, especially our state representatives and our federal representatives and senators. There's got to be a better way to this. There's got to be a way for people not to be thrown into warehouses and out of the country when they've been contributing Americans all but the citizenship papers. I'm sorry, this is stirring me up a little bit. But, where this came from home to me, I taught English as a second language. It was one of my early volunteer activities here. I came to the point where we couldn't make the classes work in small groups because they were afraid to go out at night. And these people are on charities. They're working the cows for 10 hours a day, the wages that we wouldn't take for ourselves. I'm sorry, the system needs a better set of solutions. It's not something our city can solve on its own. Do I want to contravene laws at any level to make this happen? I do not, but I'm open to ideas, and I would, for myself, not as a council person, continue to ask my elected representatives, can we work out a better way, whether it happens right away or over the next few years? That's what I'm in.
Thank you, John. John Chicarelli. Do you have more to that question?
Thank you for all the general philosophical answers. I appreciate that. I think everybody, again, is open and trying to find a solution that works for the greatest number of people. What I was looking for also was something specific, and I have a suggestion that I think would be something that would be easy to do. And I want to also point out that 15 to 20% of the people that live here is also a significant part of our local economy. They spend money here. If they're gone, that's gone also. The thought that I had is I worked for a while at Luther Elementary, and it exists in a part of town that's heavily Hispanic. You could have the kids there make posters, bilingual posters that just say, we're glad you're here, you're a part of our community, put it up in every business. And I think that would go a long way. I think all of you feel that they are part of your constituency. It's a difficult thing because it's a different lifestyle, a different language, and it's easy to feel that, you know, they're out of sight, out of mind a little bit. And I think it is something that's important. We don't have impact on the laws, but we do have impact on the feeling of our community, and they are a part of it. So that's something that I thought, you know, school kids doing that, put up the art in businesses, and that would be something that would be a very visible, welcoming thing, doesn't cost anything, and it may get them downtown spending more money. So thank you for your time.
I don't know if this is the best question. Is there a link between our city police and ICE so that if a Hispanic non-citizen got pulled over on Main Street or wherever and, you know, ended up in jail for a while for whatever reason, any reason, would our police report that person to ICE? I don't know if I should be asking you of that, but that's the question.
I don't know the answer to that direct question, but I knew that Paul Myers Police Department briefly considered an agreement with ICE. I think it's called 287 agreement, where the local law enforcement would essentially be deputized. That's the wrong word. That's a police word. But basically incentivized with big dollars from the Department of the federal, thank you, DHS, to report and to act on ICE's behalf. All right, police decided after consulting with the village council that that was a bad thing, short term and long term. They thought that they built a good working relationship with the community, the Hispanic community, and where it was something where they were comfortable enough to come forward when they were victimized by a crime or serious crime, and then that would be lost if they went to an adversarial relationship. So after some considerable debate, they turned down the 287 agreement. I think it's the first of its kind in Wisconsin, and Paul Meyer said no. I don't know the situation here precisely.
Thank you, John. John Chicarelli.
I don't know the policy here. I don't know. And I know that there are laws that they have to comply with, but I'm not certain that the city police department's policy is.
Anything, Fredo?
Thank you, John. I actually didn't know a lot of that, so good to know that our neighbors are acting in a way that's going to be of best interest to the city. I think it's been talked about a couple of times that these people are people and they are an economic powerhouse to our city and our businesses. So I want to make sure that we are doing things in a way that is going to be most careful to our residents and to our people that are going to be in need of protection. I don't necessarily think that we should be inserting ourselves in national agencies without a very thorough look into our population, what our residents feel, and how that is going to be a long-term impact on us as a city.
Thank you, Jenna. Bruce?
I think the Hispanic community that's here is wonderful. They're good for business. I agree with that. They shouldn't be treated bad. Your original question said a link between our police department and ICE. None that I'm aware of. And if there was, I'd have to question it and have it defined better to know what it is. But to my knowledge, no such link exists. And as far as what and who they might or might not turn over, like personally, if it was a murderer who's convicted in some other country for a couple of murders, I'm not sure I want him released. You know, but on the other hand, if you're not that, what you deserve is a pathway to being a citizen. And we should work hard on getting our representatives to create such a thing.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Johnson. John, you got someone?
Hello? And speaking of representative, Joan?
Here I was just trying to, meld in with the crowd. We've talked a lot about business development in this community, but I know that when I speak with businesses, there are a couple of concerns they have as far as housing and childcare. But I'd like to focus just a little bit on housing, and partly because our neighbors to the north in Lake Mills are having quite a debate right now with their city council about what does that look like? How do we get housing into our city? Where? What type? And I guess I'd just like to hear from each of you just a sort of overall comment about where you see Fort Atkinson going with where and how much housing, and how can we do that in a good way in this community?
Go ahead, Nathan. Oh, Jarvis.
I think Fort's doing good stuff. I think one of the things that they have been setting the groundwork for years, and now it's rolling out, is housing. I'm cautiously optimistic. We hear about the Bank Road development. The specifics there are big. In terms of housing supply, why do you want to do this? You want to make sure that people can stay here, grow up here, live here, work here. You want the teachers and the school staff that lives here to be able to live here. You want to retain the hospital and the medical staff. And employers, when you look at locating here, they want to know that the people that they hire at all levels, from line workers on up to the senior managers, are going to have a place to call home and get into the community. In terms of numbers, Banker Road is at full build, depending on whether you look at option 1 and 2 plan. It's 238 to 254 lots, single family lots. 142 single-family homes, 14 to 24 duplex units, 12 to 16 townhouse units, and 70 apartment units. That's a lot of housing. Okay, it's located, I think, well. It's walk to high school, it's walk to retail, it's walk to grocery store, it's walk to UW clinic. And it's also close enough to the bypass that people that work elsewhere are going to be able to get on the road without congesting the central streets of the city. Right next to that is 1310 Campus Drive. The owner of that just came forward to the planning commission, asked for approval to do the kind of zoning preparation, or lot defining preparation that sets it up for development. It's zoned MRH 30, which is probably good for 30 units per acre. That's apartments. Okay, so it's right next to the apartment component of Banker Road. That's a good location for that. And again, for the earlier reasons. So it's more units than Banker Road itself is. Another project came forward in the northwest area there. You know where the UW clinic is on Natal Lane, and south and west of Quick Trip. There is a vacant parcel there of some size, just along the edge of the bypass. And the developer would like to put 72 rental units, 6 buildings of 12 each with garages incorporated. You'd be able to have a private entrance, go right down to your garage without going to a separate garage building. Seems to me to be a good development, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,100 square feet kind of thing. I know a lot of people who find that compatible with their lifestyle. Maple Street finally has 6 houses going up on parcels that had deed restrictions with the Fort School District. That's all been resolved. I think some community gardens moved to Jones Park. Single family houses on what was formerly vacant. And finally, there's a hospital, an old medical office building that is no longer performing, is being turned into 12 senior apartments. I think it's pretty good design. It's located well. If you are a senior in need of medical, it's within walking distance of the hospital, as in my own house. So I think the city's doing a good job. They've also run reports at the city level on affordability, market analysis, and percentage of owner occupied to see if what they're trying to supply meets the needs. I mentioned the northeast development area, Main Street, Ralph Park, that whole area with the Norman redevelopment once the remediation is done. That's another prime location for housing close to downtown. So Jefferson County, I mentioned Thrive ED, the Economic Development Helper Agency. They've also done a more recent housing market analysis. So we're working up some good data. I think that's one thing the city's doing well and is continuing to do well.
Thank you, John. John Chigarelli, Nathan?
Yeah, I think that's a complex question because it's so multifaceted, but to boil it down in basic terms, my answer would be housing is driven by private investment, private sector. What a city government can do is create conditions that are conducive to that development. A lot of factors go into it. I mean, what is the business base? What are the wages in the area? What is affordability? There's so many factors that go into this, but basically, I think it's being really adaptable as a city government to changing conditions. I mean, you have mortgage rates and you have development costs, you have supply costs, you have all these other factors. So I think you really have to be, as a council, adaptable and really be able to read what's going on, see what's going into the future to make that development that best meets the city's needs as easy to do as possible.
Thank you, Nathan. Yeah.
2 great answers. So I will probably just take a lot of what they've said because that was also in my notes. So wonderful responses already. I think the difference that I would bring then is that we need to be intentional about our growth. A fresh perspective that I bring would be to be able to slow down a little bit, just to ask better questions. We have a lot of future coming. John was able to list off a lot of our in progress developments and a lot of our current planning. So I think next step would be what types of housing are we missing? And how do we plan that infrastructure that's going to go alongside of it instead of after the fact? I believe that we want to be doing that research up front, so we're not just reacting to that growth later on. And that way we can shape it in a way that's going to really fit Fort Atkinson's character, and continue helping us grow as a city.
Thank you, Jenna. Jenna Price. Bruce?
Well, I'd like to let you know, I was very proud. I was on council and part of getting the Banker Road project going. It was a wonderful thing. It's like one of the things that I would wear as a ribbon on my chest. It's a good thing. Our city manager is aware that the stuff where we looked into how many houses we need here, we're grossly underhoused or under apartments. I mean, not a little bit, a lot of it. And there are things that will happen if you are patient. You'll find that the city of Fort has got excellent plans going for the city and housing. And thank our city manager for that.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Johnson. Nathan, you want to say something?
Yeah, just to echo what Bruce was saying, the Thrive ED, Deborah Reinbold was part of that process. We actually invited her to our business because one of the challenges we face is just not enough housing. And first, it's very, very competitive to bring in new employees, but then if you lack housing, it's even more challenging. And just maybe a little bit different perspective is that markets and business development really kind of shape where things are going. I think city government really isn't the one that kind of shapes the future of what our housing is going to look like. I think we have to be adaptable to what is happening in the areas around us and what the developments are that are coming, what the needs are coming, what the needs are as they arise over the next couple of years, because it's very, very difficult to predict those things. I mean, you have all kinds of different economic situations that can happen. You have things that can turn that we didn't expect. So I think adaptability is very, very important, because if you begin setting on a preset course without seeing those things or even knowing those things are going to happen, it could be challenging. So I think adaptability and flexibility in our decision-making process, and I certainly do agree you have to do very good analysis to make right decisions because our funds are limited. But I do think that's a very key aspect of this.
Thank you, Nathan. Nathan Fredo.
Just one brief follow-up. When I look at it from a planning perspective, it's kind of like background for my second career. I look at where are the big chunks of land you can do significant things. When I think of housing, all the types, all the way down to little apartments over the downtown businesses. But you count them, that's not going to make a huge difference. Is it something to support? I think so. Is it going to make dramatic difference in the housing supply? Well, no. So where are the big chunks that are not programmed yet? Bank Road's programmed. The parcel I talked about near the bypass in Main Lane, that's programmed now. The Northeast development area, to me, is something that we got to be looking ahead, talk with current and prospective employers and say, what's the shape of that up there? It's undefined right now. It could be all industry. It could be all warehouses. It could be all housing. I think a mix makes a lot of sense because it's edged by housing. It transitions into light industrial and heavier semi-trailer based industrial. And then there's the former Kmart site up in the northeast corner where Highway K is. That used to be something entirely different. That's sort of an area of where imagination and creativity is timely. We're going to have the chance to turn on the switch when the Norman property is finally done with its waiting period. Let's be really creative about that and get some good stuff. It is what business wants, what school needs. A really good, high quality part of the work.
Thank you, John. John Chicarelli. Bruce, again.
I would also like to add a little follow-up so that people are aware of a couple of issues with Fort adding housing in different places. We're limited where we can go. Nothing east of the hospital can happen. It's all too much wetland. You couldn't build out there if you wanted to. Going north past Kmart, you can't do much of that either because it's locked in with a piece of property that is historical ground. And unless that owner relinquishes it, you can't go north because you can't connect to the city. You can't build an island outside the city and call it the city of Fort. You gotta go something to the south, and you gotta go something to the east where we are. And the place we picked was done on a survey for the Banker Road project. It was the #1 place in the city of Fort to go. And got all the perks. It's got the school, it's got grocery stores, gas stations, and the ride pass. But I think you'll see the city someplace go west from there, or go past the bypass and the other side. But we don't own that yet. We'd have to get that arranged. But our city manager is a pretty talented lady. She'll get stuff done that needs to get done.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Johnson.
Any other questions from the audience?
Questions? Get the microphone.
I have a question. I grew up in Fort Atkinson, lived here since I was 4 years old, except for 7 years of college and law school. And I was 58, I was the youngest district attorney ever elected in the state of Wisconsin. But, so I lived here, I feel like I'm part of the Fort Atkinson community, even though I live just outside the city in Peaceville next week. And, like I own several properties in Fort, like paper duplexes that were sold when I was very young, but instead of 1 10-plex, you're better off having 5 duplexes, or instead of 1 20-plex, 10 duplexes. I've only got partway there, 6 duplexes and a triplex. 15 units that we rent. We've always tried to improve them and so forth. According to it, but I've also been on the beautification council for 30 or 40 years, as long as it's been in existence, and worked on several projects within the community. Designed the city entrance sign. So I wanted to ask the city council, I understand the city manager, we've been told this by the city manager, they want to change the image of Fort Atkinson from a historical community to whatever, they haven't explained what. And they want to change the entrance signs for those that have been here for 50-some years and have held up, for the most part, for 50-some years. So what is the opinion of the candidates as far as changing the image of Fort Atkinson? We're known as a historical community. Our local museum is a wonderful place. We have the National Dairy Shrine. The local museum at one point was designated as one of the 5 best local history museums in the country. I'm not sure they followed that. They're trying to get that definition again. I think we could probably get it. We have a wonderful library here, and personal contributor that some people in the audience have for this library. And how do you feel about changing the image? The second question, if we answer in a yes or no fashion, is how do you feel about saying the Pledge of Allegiance before city council meetings? That can be answered yes or no.
I'm going to speak to the question about changing the image of Fort Atkinson. I know there's some that would like to. I personally think that's a choice by the people, but that shouldn't be something city government just bestows upon the people. We should have the people do a referendum. Do we want to change the image of Fort? And wherever that takes us is where we should go. And as far as saying the Pledge of Allegiance, I was for it. I guess with the pledge to liberty and justice for all, I didn't see that as anything but a no-brainer.
Bruce Johnson. Jenna?
I chose to move to Fort Atkinson, so I'm a relatively recent citizen of the city. I grew up in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, so I'm very familiar with the area. Another, again, historic town. So forgive me for being from Elkhorn, but I actually got to be able to fish on the river growing up, and it has been something that I love as somebody who lives on the river now. To be able to look across and see the historic project that the CCC did way back in the 1930s. I just find that to be the coolest thing, to be able to tie us to almost 100 years ago now. I'll kind of take a little hit on that one. So I don't think that we should necessarily change the historic parts. But there are some other parts of our city that I would like to highlight. I love that we are the bird city. I love looking forward to all the migratory birds that come in. So do I think that we could start blending in some of that with our historic city? Yes. Being mindful of our impact on the ecology, all of our city lights, and how they are impacting bird migration. As bird city, I think we should be kind of thinking about that in our plans. As far as saying the Pledge of Allegiance, I believe that City Council has a priority to be able to get stuff done for our residents. If it's something that our residents want to be able to hear the Pledge of Allegiance, I would be willing to do that. However, I do feel like I would want to be putting our limited time into better resources. Taking the time to be able to listen to our citizens' concerns kind of comes first and foremost. We are all Americans, and I absolutely love our country, our states. I would never not be a Wisconsinite, and now my new city that I have found, I absolutely love it, and I prioritize it by trying to become a public servant. But I want to make sure that I'm utilizing that time to everyone's best ability.
Thank you, Jenna. Jenna Price. Nathan?
In regard to changing the basic identity of the city, I think that would have to be a drawn out process, and to Bruce's point, it would have to be a referendum. I think that's something that everyone in the city should be able to have input into. I think there should be public hearings. I think it should be advertised if that's what we're thinking about doing. So in other words, full transparency. What is it we're looking to change the image to, and giving everyone in the city an opportunity repeatedly to have a voice in that process, to say yes, no, or as you had suggested, to maybe make modifications to that. And in that kind of situation as well, I think that my voice on the council is not what's important. Your voice in that decision is what should drive something like that. Oh, and as far as the pledge, to me, I mean, in any government institution, organizations, that type of thing, it's a pretty common practice. It takes 25, 30 seconds. I don't have any problem with us doing that.
Nathan? Fredo? John?
I'll start with the pledge. I agree, it doesn't take a lot of time. I think that some people in the community have very strong feelings that it is a necessary sign of patriotism. That's where I have reservations. That said, I'll be glad to say the pledge in front of the council as I take office, should I vote again. I fly the flag at my house, and that doesn't mean I back every policy of the administration, but it means I love this country. I grew up here. I want to make it as good as it can be, and that works all the way down to the city level. Okay. Regarding changing the image report, I need a little bit more definition about exactly what's meant by that before I could even consider opining on it. I feel like Jenna, but maybe even less than Jenna, I'm the newcomer on the block, sorta. I mean, I love Fort. It resonates with me based on where I spent my childhood years. Karen and I are definitely committed to the long haul. This is our chapter 3. We want to make it count. But changing the image report, what does that matter? What does that mean? Sorry, it matters, but what does it mean? Does it mean taking down the fort replicas that are at the entrance to the city? That could be one meaning of it. I love the forts. Does it mean paying attention to how our streets develop and which buildings should go be vistas for an architectural consideration? When we stare down Main Street to the south, when Whitewater Avenue goes off, should we put something there that is a vista terminator, architects call it, something that makes you proud every time you look at it, decorated Christmas lights? Should we look at our intersection and say, can they be anything more than a random collection of buildings, something that instills pride? Part of the job of an architectural report that I don't think we have, planning commission, where we kind of play architectural reward sometimes, to say, what would this building, if placed there, add to the feeling of pride that we get in being here in the city? I think there's room for that. as the Northwest Corridor continues to develop, the sport sprawl, well, sprawl's wrong, the sport extend beyond the bypass, so the gateway to the city is outside the bypass, so the bypass overpass becomes the gateway. Or just inside, do we have something we can do to make it say, you've arrived at Fort, and Fort's a cool place, it's not just a collection of retail that you're now experiencing. Come from the south on Whitewater Avenue, you go from the rural into the town, into the city limit. Can we make that look more like you've just entered Fort? Part of this is what an employer will look at. Okay, do I feel like my employees are going to really enjoy living here and get invested in it? And so should I get invested in it? So maybe I'm making too much about architecture and street design, but it's part of my background. And, not highest priority on the council, housing and business attraction by far are, but it's something on planning commission I'm aware of as we make other and more consequential decisions.
Thank you, John. John Chicarelli. Bruce, again?
Again, it's me with follow. I sat on city council when we passed the Pledge of Allegiance. The honest truth is it takes less than 15 seconds to say it. So it really isn't interfering much with city council business at any level. And when I made my decision to pass it, it was based on a couple of things. Well, I personally would have been for it, but the input from the citizens was 90-10 to have that. That's where my heart goes. My heart goes with the majority at that level. I mean, if it was 90-10 the other way, I'd vote against my own belief, but it wasn't. It was 90-10 that we should do it.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Johnson. We have some questions?
I'm not sure if this is working.
Is that?
Yes, okay, good.
I moved to Fort Atkinson in 1938, 39, long before anybody else here was at Fort Atkinson, I think. I'm first generation immigrant. And so I can understand where some of the people feel about immigration. On the other hand, I helped my grandmother go to vocational school and become a U.S. citizen. It can be done. It could also be done as maybe a prerequisite to get groceries at the food pantry. The other thing is, one issue that has not been brought up tonight that I'm really surprised it hasn't, is the streets. Now, I've been considering maybe running a contest to see how many patches and potholes have been filled on just East Kramer Street from Main Street until the railroad tracks. I can remember back in the late 30s, early 40s, Fort Atkinson had wonderful streets. They had them for years. And people come and say to me, Kurt, what happened to the streets in Fort Atkinson? And I have my own opinions, but I'll let that be up to the council and the people that are running for the council.
I'll get started on this one. There's a lot of streets in Fort that need work. One of them being 106 along the river going west. That's not really the city's issue. The city's ready to do it. The state of Wisconsin keeps backing it off. That stretch of road is 120 years old. And you can't tear that road up, one, without state permission because it's a state highway. And if the state's not participating, you can't. And they just backed us off another 2 years. So it's like 2030, I think it was, that it's anticipated something might happen with it. But you can't do that road without, when you tear it up, that you replace all the sewer systems, water systems, all of that needs to be done. Because you don't want to tear up your new road when you get one. As far as potholes on people's houses and streets, that's been probably the most popular question as I've been running again, that people ask me about the potholes in the street. And I have a personal opinion of that, and I'm hoping I can make it come true. And that is, the city, like all governments, has a budget. But unfortunately, our budget is spent 100% on things we already got going. And I think that the city should budget a pothole amount of money that goes just towards fixing potholes in people's front yards, you know, or in front of their driveways. We don't have the money to do it unless we wait till something accidentally happens and we're poor. I think the city should schedule some money in this fall for the budget to say this is meant for pothole repair. Things like the wheel tax that we all pay and no one likes it. You also got to understand that accounts for one third or better of all street repairs done in Port. So without it, if you don't like city streets, you want that to go away, you'll be less happy with city streets. But I think that we should be looking at some way to create or have the city budget for it. The city's got money budgeted for lots of things. They could budget something towards fixing potholes so it wouldn't be such a stretch or a wait.
Thank you, Bruce.
As I alluded to, I am a recent resident. When I looked at my house and subsequently bought my house, there has been a set of steel plates on the front lawn the entire time. And now those steel plates have been removed and they have put in a new drain, but I am left with a large patch of gravel. Excuse me. So I understand the frustration. It is very valid. As somebody who gets to see it every single day that I step outside, it is something that I myself have felt at times as well. I think we are right though to expect more than just quick fixes. I don't think we should just be putting in patches year after year, time after time. I think we need to be taking a thoughtful approach, which means looking at these patterns. Where are we repeatedly investing, and then where are these issues coming back every year? And now we want to ask why. Is it the use? Is it the materials that are being put in? I am a daughter of a director of transportation for Warwick County. So I know a lot about the roads and how our roads work. And it is something that I, at the dinner table, got to hear a lot about how we as a city have to work with the county that has to work with the states. I think that is a really important thing to be keeping in mind is the partnership. As Bruce said, it is something that we have to be working with those others so we aren't tearing up our brand new road to replace all the old infrastructure that is underneath it. So I want to make sure that we are bringing that fresh perspective by focusing on that long-term planning and really making our decisions based off of roads that have the most need, the most impact to our local economy and our residents, and then making sure that those investments that are being made are going to be able to last and not just patching those problems. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
If I have the figures right, I think to fully replace 1 mile of road, it's about, what is it, $1 million? Something like that. Fort Atkinson has a budget of $10.8 million. And the revenues are projected, it looks like about $9,344,000. So one thing I will promise you is that if I was on the council, not every road will be fixed. It's a much more complicated subject. I agree that prioritization, and I think one of the things that I go back to what John put into the letter is that best use first. I think that is kind of the approach that we would have to take. I also agree that this is a county and state, so it has to be a good partnership there. There's no way that Fort Atkinson alone can afford to repair every road. It's not possible. So I think that those prioritizations, those partnerships, and then best use for first. Are we prioritizing our spending where we could allocate more to do more it's possible. I don't want to say that, yes, that's the case, but it is possible and needs to be looked at. I also agree with Bruce that there are cases where something is at a point where a surface repair is going to last for a while, and that might be the most economic way to approach that. Not the perfect solution, but given the fact that funds are limited and the possibility of replacing every road, it's not possible, that really would be a good idea, is to have something diverted toward the ability to at least maintain at an adequate level those areas that we can't address in the immediate.
Thank you, Nathan.
Roads are tough in Wisconsin. Wisconsin's tough on roads. And my background in transportation, I got to rub shoulders with people involved with things. They keep what's called a pavement quality index, basically 100% means pristine new pavement, kind of we all love to drive on. You get further down the list and it needs more and more repair until you reach a point, maybe a third of the way down the list where the road is so bad condition you have to reconstruct, and then the cost jumps per lane mile. Fort is a small city with a smallish budget, and it's a hard choice to take any discretionary money that's in that budget and increase by a significant amount going towards roads. I have to say that I've done a lot of reading, a lot of homework to come up to speed to be able to sit before you tonight. And this is one that I think I need to do more homework on to really understand how public works and public works maintenance looks at the maintenance of our streets, the prioritization of our streets. By far, not every street in Fort has a county consideration or a state consideration. There's a lot of streets like Kramer that are city streets. It's up to us. So as part of the annual budget and prioritization process, we get to look at, as council members, well, I'm not there yet, at how much of that pie chart goes to all sorts of things, including road maintenance. Okay? Other cities, perhaps with more resources, have decided on extraordinary measures, like going to vote and say, we're going to have a referendum. All the money that you tell us that you want to have levied on top of what you already pay for the next 2 years is going to be nothing but streets. That's an option. I'm not going to raise that because I don't know enough about this issue yet. But if you want to fix the streets fast, more money would have to come forward. That said, I want to know more about the process. Let's see how Public Works thinks about this. Let's see what the constraints are before I can really apply. On the council, things start to go into sort of pre-budget mode late in the summer, and then things are hot and heavy, as I understand it, from September to October. We've got some time to come up to speed on what's possible to do with the streets. Do I think that West Riverside Drive is an eyesore? I do. That's a tough nut with Wisconsin DOT, with everything the city wants to do with it. And there's archaeological issues there too. So I think that's deserves its whole own attention in the city because of the complexity of it. I think the city's doing the best we can, but 2032, can we pull it in a little bit more? Yeah, I got to do some more homework on that one.
John Chickarelli, thank you, John.
Just a quick comment that I know that our streets are bad when we have a man who owns a mechanic shop advocating for helping fill potholes because you know it's going to be putting them out of business a little bit for all that body work. But I'll give that back over to you.
I thought I'd give you folks some insight in how some of this works. There's not enough money to fix everything all at one time. That nobody is surprised with. However, I have sat in the city engineer's office and looked at his computer program where the city has a map with overlays, if you know what an overlay is, where they can put down on here and show you where the water mains is broke, how often they broke. Another overlay to tell you where the water main is old, when the water main was replaced last, how far out it is from being an actual repaired road, And because again, it would waste the city's money to blacktop it and then know that in 2 or 3 years, that you're gonna tear the road up to do the stuff underneath it. The city does an excellent job that goes unnoticed because they're paying a lot of attention to the rules of good concept of you don't fix this so we can fix the top. That's when you see a road that's covered with blacktop and, or, resurfaced with just little pea gravels and stuff, because we're trying to stretch the road out a few more years before they actually fix it, because they'll fix a lot more than just covering up what's underneath it. The city does an excellent job of that. It's just not something that's widely known. And the map that I saw was incredible about the number of information they can pile on with overlays and know what area is a hot spot to fix first and what area can wait till next year, or what one can wait till a couple of years goes by.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Right.
I have a question.
You gotta have the mic.
Uh,
You gotta use the mic.
but wait a minute, I've heard a lot of talk about the streets, but sidewalks in the city are in bad shape too. I know the landowners are responsible for the sidewalks in front of their property, but could the city nudge them to fix some of the streets or sidewalks rather? Because I've talked to people with walkers and wheelchairs, and they are really disappointed the condition of the sidewalks in some areas. I can tell you where there's one area, there's 24 sections of sidewalk. 20 out of 24 are absolute rubble. And I know the city doesn't have the money that they can go around and fix all this stuff, but maybe they could figure out some way to push the landowners to fix it before somebody gets hurt. But like I said, there's people in wheelchairs and walkers who have problems. It's not really fair to them. So thank you.
I guess I'll start because the mic's in front of me at the moment. You're correct. There's a lot of sidewalks that need to be done. You're also correct that the city doesn't have the money to fix them. The concept of forcing, and I mean forcing the landowners to fix it won't make you popular. There are areas in town where you can't deal with it either, because if you're on the outer edges of it, like go past Berry School up to like where Wilson Avenue is, it's in, out, in, out, in, out. Town of Cashion, Town of Ford, Town of Cashion. Little kids walking to school should be on a sidewalk going to Berry School. They can't be because you got one in the city of Fort with a sidewalk, and you got one in the town of Cashion with no sidewalk, so the kids constantly wandering out in the street. There's a lot of issues that need to be decided on that to get a happy answer, and I wish I had a happy answer for you, sir. I don't at this point in time, but if I found one or I heard of one, I'd get on board with it.
Bruce Johnson? Yeah.
Can I offer an answer, or a partial suggestion to that?
You gotta have a mic.
The,
You gotta get over there with the mic, John.
we should let her answer. Sure. I want to respond to this particular issue. Thank you.
Jenna, did you want to respond?
I would have to agree. I think our sidewalks are what makes a community, being able to walk through your neighborhood and be able to greet people that are in their yards. That's what makes the community feel like a community. It's one of those things that helps everybody feel connected. I know it's a way that I meet my neighbors and subsequently their dogs, which is a way that they can also meet me and mine as well. So I really have to agree that I think our sidewalks are a really big priority. And then definitely something from the perspective of all usage. We have, like you mentioned, people in wheelchairs, people with walkers, kids going to school. So many different ways that we are using these. It goes back to making sure that our infrastructure is looked at as a whole. Bruce had mentioned the city architect and that overlay. Really making sure that our sidewalks are a part of how we design our neighborhoods and how, when we look at redoing our roads, they're intentionally included as well. Trying to make sure that we are keeping those updated as much as possible. Even if we're patching and fixing potholes, we should be fixing those potholes in that sidewalk as well. So definitely something that I wish I had a way to get us back to an absolute perfect world of all of our sidewalks, but it's going to take a lot of work and intention, and really making sure that we are listening to those voices of the areas that need it the most, and then starts by focusing on those areas and looking at those high traffic areas that are going to need the most help to ensure that we can at least start the project somewhere.
Yeah, Price, Nathan?
No, I appreciate your comments too, and I agree, sidewalks are kind of what ties the community together. I think it's a challenging issue. I think what I said about the approach toward roads would be a similar approach toward sidewalks. I also agree with Bruce that enforcement could have its own set of challenges. I mean, you talk about $5,000-$10,000 project for a family that can't afford it. Are you gonna find them? And how is that gonna help? It's a very challenging situation, but I think you have to approach it much like we talked about with the road situation.
I have to say that,
Nathan Friedel?
I have to say that even though this is directly part of my career background, safe routes to school, pedestrian bicycle stuff, how the city approaches it and prioritizes it is something I need to do more on. Just as much as I'd like to come up to speed on how the roads and the repair of the roads that are prioritized, I think, as Jenna pointed out, sidewalks are part and parcel of that. Complicated by city-town issues. I do think that access to school, especially elementary and middle school, should be a priority factor in which sidewalks get attention. As far as funding and where versus city responsibility, I need to do my help and work on that in the house that I want. Because this is one way that my own background can maybe help shine a light on solutions. So I apologize for not having an answer on this one right away. It's important. My own block, Jefferson at North Third, as a step. It shouldn't be there. It's 6 inches of sidewalk is continuity. If you're in a wheelchair, you're stuck. You're going into the street. So it ain't right. I need to understand what the city is doing, how it's mapping it, how it's prioritizing it, and what the letter of the code and the letter of the law says we can do that.
Thank you, John. John Ciccarelli. Candidates, I want to thank you very much for being here this evening. I very much want to thank our guests for some excellent questions. Would you like now to make brief closing statements? We'll start at this end this time.
1 minute.
Bruce?
I am very passionate about our city. I love this city and I want to do the best I can for it. So I'm hoping I'll get reelected so I can continue that. I'm now retired, so I'll have a lot more time to spend doing it. So please put me back in office.
Thank you, Bruce. John?
At the end of the day, my focus is simple: listen, build a clear plan, and follow through with solutions for Fort Atkinson. I bring a fresh perspective, grounded in real experience, and I'm not coming in with assumptions. I'm someone who asks questions, will do the research, and take time to understand the full picture before helping make decisions. That'll lead to more thoughtful choices and better long-term outcomes for the community. I want to thank you all so much for being here tonight. You guys had some absolutely wonderful questions and some great things for me to think about as I continue to run. And I hope you all would vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. Jenna Price. Nathan?
In closing, there are 3 things that would be my focus and priority. To help attract business that would be the right fit for our community, to help drive the city's revenue base to better meet the needs of our community,
Second, to support growth in the current housing shortage that we face. And last, to help make decisions that would leave a strong, vibrant, growing community for the next generation and the generations to follow.
Thank you, Nathan.
I'm with Bruce, I retired at that time. My wife and I talk about the retirement as having the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. We're in our go-go years. And one of the reasons we chose sport, and I chose it, it's the time of our life, we've got the time and energy to make a difference. Karen's doing it through art and beautification and everything that makes this city a unique, standout place for people to create. I have a background that lends itself to improving the city in a technical way, but we both love this place. We love living here, we love walking here. I tell my Bay Area friends who are still in that 6 million person metropolis, I don't have any stop signs, I don't have traffic lights between me and kayaking and country roads, and I love it. We're here for the long haul, and I want this place to be better, and regardless if I'm elected or appointed on commissions, I'm not going away. Got the energy to make this place a great place, and I would love to be your representative in doing so.
Thank you, John. John Ciccarelli. And John, the place closes at 8. Let's not get locked in here tonight.
We have our privileges. We have our privileges, but not to be, we don't want to start.
Imagine my relief.
So, yeah. If you are so inclined, we do have cards out on the welcome table outside that you can fill in. It's a question card or an issue card that you can fill in. So for some of the questions we didn't get to tonight, we can fill in a little card. We'll take care of it. We'll put it forward through government, and we'll want to put your name or phone number on the back. We'll get back to you. That's the way it goes. So thank you for joining us tonight. This was a very gratifying turnout. Citizens of Fort Atkinson will make their decision on April 7th. And Citizen Leadership Forum will continue to make this an annual event. So check in with us on our news website, FortAtkinsonReporter.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I officially bring this 2026 Fort Atkinson City Council candidate to a close. We stand adjourned. Thank you.